All right, so it is cold as hell. Um, you know, those of you that know me personally know my particular dislike and aversion of the cold climates, which is kind of interesting because ethnically, I'm Russian, and you would think that I'm predisposed to being able to live in a cold climate. It's actually quite the contrary. I not only don't like cold climate, but I get basically not tolerated at all. Not even in the slightest. I mean, I've been in like the cold. I have videos on this channel that I've copied from my old one, in which I got myself, at least here in the United States, to -21. It was even colder back in my childhood, growing up in Russia. But um, here in Colorado, it is just, I mean, I knew that it was going to be cold, but honestly, um, this is a whole new level. A whole new level. Now, there's a lot of things going on here that are relevant to mention. Okay, the very first one is that I am basically uh, trying to boondock this entire trip. Now, I had in my original plan, before I even set sail to this neck of the woods, when I was still in Florida, I had a plan of basically sort of like intermingling things, so that I could rejuvenate and recuperate and stuff. The difference between boondocking and being at like a paid campground is that when you're boondocking, you're way out in the boonies, hence the term boondocking, and you're entirely fully self-contained, meaning that you're not connected to anything. You don't have electricity. You don't have. I keep looking around because there's this. I'll address it at a different time, but it just seems like some people, whatever. So when you're boondocking, basically you have to have your own source of everything, right? And which is the reason why I came so prepared. I have gas canisters, I have water canisters. Both my RV and my pickup truck have hoses so that I could fill up, filters, and plus I have water filtration thing going on. Breeder, and plus I boil water. Uh, I have solar, I have generator. Uh, so basically, I could be off grid for as much. The downside to being off the grid like that is the fact that you're caught in sort of like you have to make decisions that are based on variables that you have. Like, for example, when I was in Utah, it was hot as hell, obviously, right? So I was running the generator trying to keep the RV cool because, of the cat. Here, I am not running generator other than to brew a cup of coffee and run my microwave, right? But it is frigid here. Just like as I'm sitting here, my truck, by the way, I'm just looking over there. My truck is still covered by a sheen of ice. That's how cold it was. And that's how cold it is every single night. Within the course of the day, and like yesterday was just a prime example of just how ridiculous. I don't care how beautiful it is out here, because it is just jaw dropping. Like, if you've never been to the Rocky Mountains, wow. Like, totally wow. Um, but yesterday, right, I started my day, I think it was 43 in the morning. By the time I made it to Ophir Pass, it got to about, I think it was 52 on the top over there. And by the time I made it to Telluride, which I need to tell you about Ophir and Telluride in a separate video because it warrants its own kind of thing. Uh, it was like 75 and sunny, right? By the time I made it back to Ophir Pass again, it was, I think, like 62. By the time I made it to this campsite over here, uh, it was probably 65. And then I started going up the mountain. Well, I had a quick bite, and then I started going up the Red Mountain Pass. It started snowing. It started raining. It started hailing. It got down to 39. By the time I made it down from the mountain the first time, because you do this on the Red Mountain Pass, it was like 46. And then it basically stayed 46 probably all the way until I got back here. And then here I think it was maybe like 52, and then overnight it got down to 39 again. And that's how it is every single day. Now obviously, because of my plans being all topsy-turvy with the whole weather thing in Moab and me scrambling to move here more than 2 weeks early, I'm suffering from being here too early, in a sense. But here's the hilarious part: the highs for the highs and the lows for this area, Silverton and Ouray, for the month of July, are basically just a smidgen better than what they are right now. It's so interesting. Like there's people that live out in this climate, and I'm always kind of asking myself, why? It's like your entire year consists of being cold, either really really cold, really cold, cold, or somewhat cold. There's nothing like, it's like, even if it's 75 degrees outside, right? The second the cloud, obscures the sun, or if the sun angle is different to the mountain, like let's say if this is the, the peak, right? And the sun is just it goes from 75 to like 50 in 2 seconds. Like you could just feel, you feel that it's almost, if you've ever been inside like a walk-in freezer at the like restaurants and hotels and stuff like that, those giant ones where you walk and there's like meats and deli and all this, kind of like what you see at the grocery store when they open that giant door and walk in and get the stuff. It's exactly like that. It's like walking from, it just hits you like a ton of bricks. And I guess it also doesn't help the fact that I'm so close to the river, because the cold, the wicked cold that's coming off it is just crazy. I'm actually parked about 150 feet away from the water, if I had to guess. And there's a point, like there's RVs lined all across that whole shoreline. Well, I guess river doesn't have a shoreline, but you know what I'm saying. And somewhere between myself and them, even during daytime, there's this unspoken threshold where it's like you're hitting an invisible wall, and all of a sudden it just gets so much colder. Ooh, um, it's um, it's interesting. It's interesting. I knew that it was gonna be on the chilly side, but my vision was that I would be chilly on tops of the mountains because of being up on the peaks. I didn't anticipate being cold over here on the bottom. Now, in case you're wondering, like, what's the big whoop? I mean, obviously, as you see, I'm wearing a hoodie and lawn pants and sneakers and all that stuff. Like, I've come prepared. I have some semblance of winter clothes. But the impact of it is that it is cold inside RV at all times. As a matter of fact, it is so cold that my fridge, for the first time since Florida, actually has well, RV fridges are not like residential fridges. Okay, there's residential fridge has a compressor and like a blower thing, and typically it blows air from the freezer, which doesn't have any ice buildup in it, and then it blows it through a hole into the fridge, which is why typically if your freezer goes out, well, so does your fridge. RV is completely different. It has this thing where there's like metal slots, right? And so those are the ones that get cold, and somehow they backfeed into. So because they're cold, the inside of the fridge is cold. So they are covered in ice, and I've actually had to lower the setting because it's getting way too cold inside the fridge. My second refrigerator, the portable one, right? It's been maintaining temperature, barely even turning on. That's how cold it is. It's so cold that waking up in the morning, it's like 44 degrees inside RV. Yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Um, and here's another component of it. My plan was entirely based on not being here right now. And my plan was to basically be here for 2 weeks. But from the looks of it, it's gonna be 6 weeks. And the horrible reality is that I have to move in 2 weeks. I've been keeping a very close eye on. There's a lot of forest BLM presence here. They are um, sending sheriff units out here. They're also coming out here in their own vehicles, basically shooing people out. Now, I don't know if it's because of the fire ban, which is entirely plausible, but I've had multiple people mention to me, um, namely like law enforcement, because it's very like I can't just walk up to them and be like, "Hey, what happens if I overstay my 14 days?" Right? Because that's immediately going to raise a red flag. So I'm trying to be somewhat coy about it. Um, but they both, the sheriffs and the forest people, have both hinted at the fact that the 14-day policy is enforced. Well, my options are as follows: either get the heck out of Dodge, but I have to come back here for July the 4th, which is coming up fairly quickly, and basically stay here between the 4th and the 20th, um, which, yeah. So I've been very seriously contemplating going to town and basically peeing at the campgrounds. Now, their campsites are ridiculously expensive. They know it, everybody else knows it. Um, yep. So the cheapest option that I found is one campground basically has a no hookup parking. It's like $30 a day. So I may have to go that route. But until then, I'll continue to shiver and weather the elements, and like I'm looking that way, right? And the sun finally peeked over the mountain. If I was in Moab right now, it would have been probably 85 degrees inside my RV at sunrise. Here, it's gonna get to 75 probably by like 2 o'clock, if anything. So that's kind of it. I have a couple of other videos on the pipeline. I'd like to talk about the town of Ophir and Telluride, and also talk a little bit about Ouray and revisit Silverton somewhat. I've said some choice words about Silverton. I still stand by it, but I'd like to make like a little addendum. But I'll cover that in a separate video. It's nothing to do with this. So, alright guys, until next time.